Me neither.
Yeah, let's let them know.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Good afternoon.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning, good evening. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Lillian. I'm part of the SPS Media team. And we're delighted that you have made the time to join us this afternoon to launch this wonderful seminar work. And we're honored that Gilbert chose SPS Media to publish his book. And you all have turned up today to support that work and take it further. So thank you all. We have a packed program and an exciting one as well. We have a moderator who's going to moderate the entire event. And we also have some reviewers who are going to review the book because it's been out for a while and people have read it and have an opportunity to appraise it. So they're going to talk a bit more about that. And so without much, let's introduce you to our moderator. She's Mercy. So I'm going to introduce the moderator, but she's not starting right now. You don't want me to join? Okay. I'll hand it over to Jude, who's going to make some remarks from the publishing team.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's a pleasure to see all the beautiful faces. It's Gilbert's big day. We are pleased to have you join us to celebrate this book, to celebrate with him, to celebrate what I think is going to be an amazing contribution to storytelling. We started work on this book, I believe, at least a year ago. So it's been in the works. And Gilbert has been a very patient, thorough author, and it's been a pleasure to work with him. And so we're really proud that this book came out through our platform. For those who do not know about SPS Media Press, we will be celebrating our 7th anniversary next month. We are an innovative publishing platform devoted to telling African stories. We pride ourselves as a platform for alternative voices. We have a network of people who push this agenda. They're all over the world, and I'm really pleased to see some of them here with me today, including Victor Gomia, Divine Fu, who is all the way in Cape Town, and many more. Divine Fu actually has an announcement about this book. So he would say a few words about this book before we proceed, because it also has a launch coming up next month in Cape Town. So over to you, Divine.
Yeah, good evening to everybody, or good morning. I mean, it's 7 p.m. here in Cape Town. And good evening, Gilbert. It's good to see you. We are looking forward to discussing this book. I'm heading an institute called HUMA, that's the Humanities in Africa Institute, that is at the University of Cape Town. And we run a series which is a book launch and a book discussion. And we will be privileged on the 7th of June to have what we call a book launch, which is a kind of really deep, an intellectual conversation with an author around the book, especially when it's a book that we think has contributed to thinking the human on the continent, because we are an institute who are really focused on questions around the humanities, but also thinking the human, questions around ethics. And we've had a really good group of speakers this far. Last week we had Mamdani, the week before we had Abdul Malik Simon, we're going to have Francis Nyamjo. So Gilbert is going to be on the list of really good and seasoned speakers. So we are looking forward to engaging you, and we invite colleagues, to join you. And we want to congratulate SPS and the colleagues at SPS, for the commitment that they make to African knowledge production, but also just to telling African stories, which is the only way I think we can make our voice known and bring value, to thinking humanity. So I'm looking forward to this conversation and hope to see you on the 7th of June. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Divine Bull, my own dear brother, all the way from Cape Town. One more thing about our platform. So next month we have a book launch where Gilbert will be moderator, and we will be launching Beats of Memory by author Martin Jumbam, who is here with us today. So for those of you who are fans of Gilbert's work, please join him on that day for this book launch. It's June 12th. And I think the registration link will be shared later on as we proceed with our discussions. So finally, we are really pleased to have this platform and to welcome you all as we celebrate and launch this book. We look forward to a very rigorous and engaging discussion with the author. I know many of you have come with your questions and comments. So we just cannot wait for you all to share this moment with us, at least the next couple of hours with all of us, including the author. Thank you. Over to you, Lily.
Right, so we're here to launch a book. So I'm going to call on everybody who has a copy of this book to get your copy of the book and have it handy. So turn on your video, have a copy of the book handy.
So have it.
And I see lots of people with copies of the book. Okay. Show off your copy, show off your copy. Let's see what this book looks like. I can't see mine because I have a background. Awesome, awesome. Thank you all for buying your copies. And if you don't have a copy, you have to buy one. So if you don't have a copy, this is your opportunity to also see what it looks like. It's a very good book. It has lots of stories, sort of humorous, interesting stories. And we are delighted that you joined us today to launch this book. And the author is here. You have questions, we'll be happy to answer them. We want to declare the book officially launched. Thank you, Dr. Gomia, on all those holding their copies. If you can hold it one more time and we'll take a screenshot. Okay, 3, 2, 1. There we go. Thank you. Awesome. So let me introduce you to our moderator who is going to coordinate the rest of the event. Her name is Mercy. And Mercy Ndi, she holds a master's in peace and development and is currently undertaking a doctorate in African American history. She has worked for GIZ and the Frederick Herbert Foundation. She's the coordinator of Youth Empowerment Forum, which promotes youth entrepreneurship. For many years, she was Deputy Commonwealth Youth Representative for Africa region, and she has known the author for close to 2 decades. So it's wonderful to have you here today, Mercy. Thank you for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Lily. Hi, everyone. Hello, 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 hello. You are all welcome to this jamboree. It's a celebration. It's a celebration of our generation. It's the book launch of our brother, it's a mentor to many people, to many young people, Gilbert Shang. And the book is a very interesting one. And I know we're going to have a very good time reviewing the book and having the insights in the book. So without wasting much time, I know when we talk about romance, people talk about romance, you see a female and a male relationship. But here, when we talk about romance, we're talking about a book that has taken many of us memory lane, to our childhood days, to our adulthood days, to the village, to the town, to the diaspora. It has taken us to so many places. That's why we're all excited today to celebrate this book, to have a jamboree over this book, and just have fun. I am tuning in from Binka. Binka is a village in Dogamantung division. And when you say Binka, you think of Silla. So wherever you are, well, when you say you're from Binka, you're from Silla. So without wasting much time, without getting into the book, because it's a very exciting one, I'm going to leave the floor to Nsah Mala. Nsah Mala is he's a poet, and he's an award-winning writer, and is currently undergoing a PhD in comparative literature. He has published several poetry collections, and we are very happy to have him here. We pass the floor to Mr. Nsah Mala to do the first review of the book. Once more, everybody is welcome, feel comfortable. It's a celebration. It's all about love, it's happiness, it's joy. So let's join the author, Gilbert Shang, to commemorate and celebrate this book. And we also want to thank Spears Media for giving us this opportunity. So Mr. Nsah Mala, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Icho we here. Chat ni wewe. Mtonto sagala jema. I am Nsah Mala, and I'm privileged to have known Gilbert for so many years now, but not 2 decades, not 2 decades like Mercy. And he is my soulmate, my brother, my elder brother, my mentor, and a lot. Well, I'm not sure if what I'm going to be saying here is a classical book review, but let me just say I have some comments to make about this book with which I have lots of connections, both physical, spiritual, and otherwise. My presentation or the commentary I'm going to be making is titled Listening to the Radio of Life, Comments on Gil Ndishang's The Radio and Other Stories. You can see I've already greeted you in Basa and in Limbum as a reflection of the multiplicity of languages that crisscross this book by Gilbert, and also reflect the Cameroonian reality and also the globe-trotting realities of Gilbert and some other people who are among us here today. It must be pretty difficult to review or comment on a book after so many renowned scholars and critics have variously and aptly described and praised it. That said, my commentary of this timely and timeless book will struggle to be as terre-à-terre, as down-to-earth as possible. And I have no doubt that all our reviews and comments on the book up to now are just tips of the numerous icebergs it harbors in its pages, awaiting more sustained critical unearthing. Given the countless relations I have with this book, one of the numerous lessons I draw from it is that life is a radio. So by way of a title, I could as well have said something like this: listening to the radio that life is. Comments on Gil Ndishang's The Radio and Other Stories. As this book demonstrates, everything, every place, and every person constitute radio sets for us because they speak to us, because they educate and entertain us, because they record and the awe announce life to us. Being aware of the radio qualities of life, Gil Ndishang travels with the eyes of a news writer and the ears of a radio reporter. This journalistic alertness combined with Ndishang's expertly scholarship and literary craftsmanship all converge to deliver a gripping narrative on a wide range of people, objects, places, topics, and relations without being disparate, as the motifs of memory, travel, globalization, or better still, glocalization, and more of these motifs coherently connect them together. And what is the outcome? The outcome is an arresting story with unlimited relatability and punctuated with humor. Indeed, one of the numerous strengths of this book is that it is highly relatable to everyone, including all of us here today, irrespective of our social status, color, or level of education. Village parents and farmers, first school leavers, secondary and high school students, university students at home and abroad, teachers, historians, university professors, beignet haricot sellers, clando drivers, file chasers in ministries, coast goers, village storekeepers, masquerade lovers or juju lovers, bush fallers, mbengist, and the list continues. All hear this book, all hear this paper radio, speaking to them intimately. Of course, this long list is far from being exhaustive. Now, let me give you some teasers to illustrate some of these claims. First, I am pretty sure that all Cameroonians in this Zoom launch have seen or heard about the returnees from the coast who animate or animated their village with a radio cassette. In Dishang's native Lu, one of such persons was called Nyako. Now let us tune in and listen to the radio. Quote open. Nyako was a huge man with a deep voice who had spent several years in Douala. When he returned, only those of his age group could retain memories of him. After all those years of plantation labor, the most valuable property he had brought home was his radio, an 8-battery set. He would carry it up and down the village main road, setting the volume as high as possible, earning him the nickname Nyako Disco. He had many other nicknames in the neighboring villages. You got that? Maybe you thought it was Dunga Manton Community Radio, DMCR, one of my favorites when I am in Bessa. That was Gil Ndishang's The Radio. And if you listen further, I mean, if you listen right from your own copy of the radio, you would find out more about Nyako and his likes, including the nostalgia such people often display for their good old days in the coast. And by coast, we mean all those places outside the village where our people went or go and worked or work money through blue-collar jobs. Without doubt, many, if not all of us, will find connections with Nyako. Interestingly for me, we had at least 2 people nicknamed Nyako in my native Mbasa. But our radio-owning returnees from the coast had other nicknames. One of our Nyakos was a returnee, but without a radio. And you know how we call people like Nyako in Dishang's book? We actually call such people in my place, in Beza, we call them Chifang, which is the shortened form of Chifangatum, which actually means someone who has overstayed in the coast. Second, who among us has not had issues with their shoes at one time or several times?
That's my best one.
For example, like me, have you ever waited for nightfall in order to go home from the market because of your oversized, undersized, painful shoes? That is, you had to wait for night to fall so that you remove the shoes and go home barefoot, and you were actually in a market, so you can understand the gymnastics. Or have you ever been in a place like I was once in Bambili, dancing in a circle with faulty shoes, and as you danced, you suddenly saw the heels of someone's shoes inside the dancing arena and started suspecting it was yours just before a friend called on the phone asking you to pick his shoe heel? Now listen to Gil Ndishang tell us a similar story, but in a more fascinating way. Tune in and let's listen. You removed the sock from your right foot and pocketed it while holding part of the shoe in your right hand, making sure it did not come close to your black shirt. At some point, you felt like throwing the shoe into the surrounding thicket. But then you looked at its broader, seemingly very strong, and you consoled yourself that the right foot could be repaired subsequently. You made sure you put the pressure of your gait on the left foot, the shoed one, to lessen the burden on your right foot. Page 29. You heard that? Funny, right? In order to know what exactly happened before Dishan had to remove the sock, you need to purchase a copy of the radio. And on a more personal note, I have many connections and relations to this book, and I'm serious about this. Personally, this book is not only relatable to me because I've actually visited Gil Dishang in Bayreuth in 2016 when he was writing it. Indeed, I am one of those who heard those two church bells firsthand ringing competitively as Gil worked on this book. I mean the bells which made him the collateral damage of their fierce sonic competition. Yes, those bells which reminded me of other bells, which reconnected Ndishang to other bells, including the church bell and his father's voice, unknowingly waking him up from bed in Lu. Other connections I share with the radio include the man splitting wood on the moon, and the legendary the man who went to heaven alive. Both
I believe we can go on and on.
and Besa cultures. But can you only hear more? But you can only hear more about this by getting your own copies of the radio and watching a notebook in these directions, perhaps from Dishang, perhaps from me, perhaps from you, who knows? And I'm driving to the end anyway.
We can go on and on. One more minute.
Are we doing with time?
Very interesting.
Apart from the very relatable fun and entertainment which the radio and other stories provide, among others, the book offers an opportunity for Ndishang to sarcastically comment on the socio-political life of Cameroon and far beyond. Two examples on Cameroon will suffice here. First, I am particularly touched by the book's subtle call for reforms in our Cameroonian university system, notably the tortuous experience of the scoreboard or the babia, where some students' marks often disappear in Guaykele, and where some students' destinies are often thwarted with deliberately poor marks and other malpractices. Any one of us here today who has been to the University of Yaoundé 1 has either been a victim or witnessed victims of the babia. Moreover, this is second, Ndishang's The Radio evokes an issue which has been preoccupying me for so long, as I'm sure it does to many of us here today. I am talking about the ordeal of retired civil servants who bask in the sun, drown in rain, and undergo all forms of psychological and physical torture as they chase their retirement benefits in Yaoundé. As you listen to the radio, I mean as you read your copies to find out about this incident, let us all reflect on how to pressurize the Yaoundé regime to treat retirees with dignity. And I must hasten to remind you that Ndishang's The Radio joins Babila Moutia's novel, The Journey's End, published in 2016 by the same Spears book, to denounce the plight of retirees in Yaoundé.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nsah Mala. We can go and on.
Let more ink flow in this direction.
Dealing with time.
I plead on both creative and scholarly ink. Just a minute, please. Yes. Now let me conclude my comments on the radio.
Yes, sir.
As I've struggled to demonstrate in the preceding comment, whether you went to school or not, whether you reside in Cameroon or abroad, there is something for you in the radio, something offered in a gripping manner. Ndishang does not scratch at subjects and pass. He has his way with producing measured and vivid details, which are neither too much nor insufficient. Grosso modo, Ndishang's The Radio beautifully defies classification due to its depth and breadth, which lend it to numerous interpretative angles. It is part memoir, part autobiography, part travel writing, part documentary, part critical commentary, and more. Accordingly, therefore, Mole Driz El Marouf notes that it is a must-read for the students of African literature, critical theory, philosophy, sociology, psychology, media, and cultural studies. Whoever you are here, it's me now speaking. Do not say I did not recommend this book. Grab your copy, read it, listen to it, identify your connections with it, and thank Nsah Mala. Beriwa, and Yongakana, Isokowani. Thank you. Merci. Gracias.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nsah Mala. I mean, we can go on and on, right? And I'm sure we all identify with what he is reading from the book. It's like reality. It's like living it, you know, as if we're in a village, we're in a town, or wherever we are. The story just relates to us in a very wonderful way. Yes, life is a radio. That's something I noted, very, very important. And this book dismantles social stratification. There is no social stratification in this book. So if you, a truck pusher, a bensic, anybody can take this book and read because of the English that is there. It's so subtle, it's sweet, it has melody. So I want to thank Mala so much for bringing into perspective a review of this book that would permit, you know, those who've not yet grabbed a copy to grab a copy. Now I'm going to introduce himself. He has made us, you know, go memory lane, and I've known him for 20 years. And within these 20 years, we were in different settings. We were in a particular setting at one point where we could see each other, but you know, as time goes on, life evolves. We spread all over the world, but we kept in touch. So 20 years is not 2 days. So I'm very pleased and elated to introduce the author. Now, I'll say something. He had 3 addictions. He had 3 addictions, and I'm sure people are like, what? He was addicted to what? What was he addicted to? Can someone quickly imagine the kind of addiction that Gilbert had, Gilbert Deschamps? Anybody? Okay, I'm going to move forward, but let me say that Gilbert was addicted to the British Council. He was addicted to books, reading. He was addicted to the radio. In fact, many people think that he used to work at the British Council because this guy will come in early in the morning and leave when the British Council is about to close. And I remember Mr. Nyenti wondering that Amasa, you want to hear, you know, that kind of, this young man is always reading. And we can see that the reading culture started a long time ago. And I remember he was part of a very important forum at the British Council, the Management Forum. When he started attending the Management Forum, he got interested in diplomacy. He wanted to be a diplomat at one point. He was reading books on globalization, you know, autobiographies of big people, you know, in quotes today. I'm sure he's a big man, so he has followed the steps. And I remember him, you know, being interested in civil society. When I was launching our NGO, Youth Empowerment Forum, that I coordinated and I still coordinate today, I didn't have to invite Gilbert because he was always at the British Council. He was at the British Council. So he was there with his friend Silvanus. Silvanus and Gilbert, they have a story that is very, very particular because Gilbert would trek from, he used to live Carrefour Kameni, I think. He would trek from Kameni to Polytech, meet with Gilbert, they would eat gari. They will soak gari, and if they had granite, you know, they will put the granite, eat, and off. They go to the British Council. Sometimes they trekked, sometimes they took a taxi, and they've maintained this friendship. And the love for the radio cannot be overemphasized because Gilbert used to sleep with his radio on the whole night. Music, listen to BBC, focus on Africa. His neighbors used to complain that Massa, what kind of man is this? Always, you know, the radio was always on, and I'm sure his friends like, what's that, his friend's name again? I don't remember, but I know his friends would recall that he was very addicted to reading and listening to the radio. And I remember Eban Emmanuel, he was wondering that, but we're writing exams when he was in bilingual letters in the University of Yaoundé 1. when they were writing exams, preparing for exams. This guy is reading books about politics, international relations, and all of that. So it's been a trajectory that has followed up till today, because today we see him with the radio and we see him with the books, we see him telling stories. So Gilbert, I really want to, you know, how do I put it? I really want to celebrate the book and you today, and let people know that it's a common man that emerged. Others can do the same and has reached at this level. So let me quickly.
Sorry for interrupting, please.
Yes.
Sorry for interrupting. I'm Elvis, came on at Elvis, and I'm a witness. I've been his classmate for, I've been his classmate during his period here in Waikele. We lived in the same room, we read bilingual letters together. So.
Okay, thank you so much. So you're a testimony to that. He's belonged to so many social groups, WISU, where he's always promoting poetry and story competitions. He belongs to the Nkambe, the GBHS Nkambe alumni. The batch, that particular batch, I think is 1995 to 2002. Yes, that's Goodwill batch. So together with the group, you know, they are doing a lot of great things back in their school and in the community. So, so today, let's make a more sophisticated, how do I call it, profile of Gilbert. Well, Gilbert is a PhD holder right now in competitive literature from Bayreuth University of International Graduate School of African Studies. He is a member of the Young Colleague Program at the Bavarian Academy of Science in Germany, Munich. He is a fellow of the Fritz Thyssen Foundation and the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation for his literary research in Congo, Peru, and Colombia. He's an alumnus of Catholic School Law, very important because that's where the story started. Government School Law, Government Bilingual High School Kambe, the University of Yaoundé 1, and the Teachers Training College, Yaoundé. He's the author of Letter from America, and he's now the author of this wonderful book that we are ready to serve. People have already served it, but we are really, really excited to. You have the floor for your first reading.
Thank you very much, Mercy. Thanks to everybody for coming. It's a wonderful honor for me to have my friends, my classmates, my teachers. I can see Professor Atechi there for his students. So thanks very much. And let me go straight to the point. I will have time to recognize all those present later. I will read a passage that maybe gives an idea to what I chose, why I chose the title as the radio, as the title story. So you see, now we tune in quite easily with a lot of ease, but tuning in years and decades back was not always as easy as it is now for me, of course. Okay, my radio was a JVC Mac. Most often, in the middle of a very important news bulletin, the waves would gradually grow febrile and eventually fizzle out. That was usually the case during the rainy season. You would helplessly pin your ear against the JVC's perforated frame that contained the speaker to catch the last puffs of the vanishing voice. Most often, you felt, with anxiety and desperation, the voice of some of your favorite presenters disappearing into the background, not without leaving you with a torturing trail of names like Boutros Ghali, Helmut Kohl, Nelson Mandela, making you imagine what the news was all about. You strained your imagination to infer the unsaid and the possible denouement of vital information of which the JVC had left you with mere fragments and innuendos. Sometimes, in a bid to force the radio to perform, you would turn off on the red button and then the green to turn it on again. Other times, you would simply hit the radio hard, hoping that it would trigger some forceful cable connection or disconnection that would help recover the vanishing voice. Sometimes it effectively worked, fired up by the half-dead Heleson's batteries which you used to recycle by sunning them on the cemented veranda. When that was done correctly, the batteries were born again, giving new life to the radio.
Yeah.
Most often, after the hitting, an unrepentant cockroach would fall from the crevices of the radio and disappear under the bed or the cupboard. Thus, when turning the radio with scientific precision, you were unable to clearly make out if the subtle hissing sound that came out of the JVC was the promising sign of the voice of Robin White, Julian Marshall, Alistair Cook, the Ghanaian Richard King Korte of VOA, or that of an infant cockroach entangled in the wireworks of the radio. The stations that offered themselves more easily were BBC Hausa Service, Radio Malabo, and Africa Numero 1. While BBC Hausa Service waves were strongest at night, Africa Numero 1 and Radio Malabo were reverberated with vigor during the day. In the afternoons, these two stations would thrill you with entrancing tunes such as Morikante's Yeke Yeke, Salif Keita's Africa and Tekere, and Angelique Kidjo's Agolo. Amid the indescribable boredom that sometimes assailed you when you were left alone in the compound on a public holiday, these clips commingled with the currents of the rivers Gambia, Niger, Zambezi, Sanaga, Limpopo, Nile, Orange, and Benue of your primary school geography lessons, reminding you that you were part and parcel of a large mass called Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shang. In fact, every sentence in the book, gives you anxiety. It's emotional because, as I say, it's a book that relates to all of us, and it just makes you feel like, oh, I wish we had stayed back in those days, because we are reliving it as if it's happening right now. So thank you so much, the author. And Gilbert Shang. I would call you like that. That's the way we are used to have fun of calling you, So for me, call you Gilbert Nzishang or Gil Nzishang. It's the same thing. So we're going to get into something more exciting. We're going to get into poetry performance by Roger Bianda. Is Roger in the house?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. Let me just throw the floor to you, and we would note that he's a PhD student in education, curriculum development, and instruction. He is a graduate from the Higher Teacher Training College, Yaoundé. He is currently a sergeant with the U.S. Army in the domain of military intelligence, and he is a poet and a short story writer. Over to you, Mr. Bianda.
Thank you very much for the generous introduction. When I got a copy of the manuscript from Gilbert to read at the very early stage, I didn't think it was going to be a priority of the activities I had. But when I started reading it, I didn't have a choice but to bring it up to the top of the list of the things that I do daily. And so I did what I could. I read through and over the lines and did what I could. I saw some and didn't see some. And those that I saw, I corrected. No, I didn't correct them. I simply suggested corrections because I know not all that is wrong or right, but I did what I could. I mostly enjoyed myself and sometimes intentionally would not finish reading, but I did what I could to finish. Did I say finish? No. I stopped reading when I saw the last word. To be candid, I enjoyed reading it more than I corrected it. And it was good. Mary's pregnancy and the carpenter's guilt flew out of my memory, and I met your mom and Eric's wife. I cried too. I don't know why. When you had your mom in your arms at the farm, I cried too. I still do not know why. I was happy for you, and then I pitied me, for I was never going to see mine again. Not father, not mother. not when I fly home like you, not on the farm, not on a coffee plantation, not on the bank of the fish pond that he had, maybe not even when I die, for I may not be buried close to their graves. Or maybe never, because they are in heaven and I would go to hell. I really don't know. Then I will cry again and cry and cry. I did what I could. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roger. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we all remember a pregnancy and either the neighbor is guilty or carpenter is guilty. So that's the perspective. That's how I visualize it. And as usual, Gilbert Dishang, wrote it exactly the way it should be written. So thank you so much, Yanda, for that wonderful poetry performance. We're going to give the floor to Lillian. Lillian is going to do a book giveaway announcement, 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Mercy. So now we're going to have a fun quiz, and we have a So we're going to have a book giveaway at the later in the program, and I've put a link to participate in the chat. So you have to participate in order to win a book. Go to www.menti.com and enter the code that we have in the chat there. And then we'll have the quiz soon.
Okay, Lily. Thank you, Lillian. So guys, rush to the link. Make sure you participate so that you can get a copy of the book. I think it's for free for those who participate now. Is it? Oh, they have an auction. Anyway, we're going to move forward with the program, and now we're going to be calling on Joyce Abla. Her name is, her other name is Sango, Sango Joyce Abla. She's a PhD student in the University of Beirut. After her bachelor's degree in the University of Boya, she pursued a master's in culture and society of Africa. Her current research is on Afrofeminism, positive feminism, yes, I hope. When people hear about feminism, they're like, but we also have a positive feminist that incarnate values, and I'm sure she's one of them. She's also a assistant for the Gender and Diversity Office Africa Multiple Cluster at the University of Beirut. Joyce, you have the floor to give us the second review of the book, The Radio and Other Stories. And please let me know where you're tuning in from. I said I was tuning in from Binka. Nobody has told me where they are tuning in from. Joyce, where are you tuning in from, please?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm tuning in from Bayreuth. I live in the same town with Gilbert.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone joining in today from whichever part of the country that you're joining in from. Thank you very much, Mercy, for that warm introduction. Like she rightly mentioned, my name is Joyce Sango, and I'll be giving a brief review of Dr. Gilbert Dishang's recent book, The Radio and Other Stories, the reason why we are all here today. Dr. Gilbert Dishang is a very good friend of mine. We arrived by Bayreuth around the same time in 2010. And since then, I must confess, he's been more of a brother and a mentor to my academic growth. I just want to use this opportunity to appreciate you, and I say thank you very much. I think without taking much of your time, I have just 5 minutes. I would just like to bring out some salient aspects that I found interesting in this book. The Radio and Other Stories foregrounds, among other concerns, the global migration of Africans from their home countries into the Western world in search for greener pastures. This is represented in a Cameroonian called G, who leaves his home country, Cameroon, to Germany for studies. The political and socio-economic upheavals and instabilities in the narrator's home country, Cameroon, as mentioned in the book, like the political unrest, the Bakassi Peninsula, the economic crisis in the 90s, the government worker strikes, and many other factors have pushed young Cameroonians to migrate to other countries for greener pastures. The narrator happens to be under the category of voluntary migrants who leave their home country for educational purposes. So to show the importance that migration plays in this entire book. Also of importance is the role of the radio and the advent of new forms of communication. In his new apartment, the narrator comes across the radio, which reminds him of the role it has played in his life. The image of the radio is a very crucial one in this book. The radio during his early years of education in Cameroon was a prestigious symbol of wealth and means of communication that connected people from different parts of the country. His father, G. Nyako, were among the few that were privileged to own a radio in his village. So this importance also speaks to the fact that G decides to take his radio along with him into his new hometown in Bayreuth, Bavaria. The radio that constituted a prestigious and relevant element in his community has been replaced with new and modern forms of technology like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp, just to name a few. So from a post-colonial point of view, the radio and other stories raises the question of the rightful place and the role of the radio in our contemporary African societies. The author, through the character figure of grandpa and grandma, I think he calls that Takfu and Makfu, if I got it rightly, takes the reader to the Cameroonian rich ancestral past. So just like the radio, which stands as a symbol of our rich African cultures, the author, by bringing in the grandpa and the grandma figure, reminds us to go back to our old ways of knowing and being that has been destroyed by colonialism. I would also like to comment on the structuring of our institutions of learning. Institutions of learning are spaces where knowledges are produced. The educational system in our institutions of learning is a very crucial aspect when reading through the radio and other stories. The radio and other stories unravels the syllabus, that is the curriculum in Cameroon, where the author did most of his early education. This is a book that takes you into the world of other books, making it very rich. I'll read a short section in this book, and this is on page 235. Her name was Mrs. Nka Leno Bridget Ngasa Esakaret. She taught you literature in Form 4 and 5. She was a fine pedagogue and made her students live the literature they studied. She made her students sing, shout, cry, laugh, and yearn as they contemplated and analyzed the intricate verses of Come Down, O Maid by Tennyson, La Belle Dame sang Merci, Kate, The Eve of Agincourt, Shakespeare. So actually, the writer's exposure to such literatures actually has shaped his writing style, which is also very interesting and important to mention here. Another important aspect that I found so interesting in the book, reading through this book, that leaves one with a question of why so much emphasis on death? There is a whole section in this book that focuses on death, and I keep asking myself, why does the author lay so much emphasis on death? Which means the theme of death is given much attention in this book. The notion of life and death is recounted from both the continental and the diasporic perspective, with instances including the death of Professor Eckhard Breitiger and Mr. Gassong, the librarian, and Dr. Comfort. So the book also raises the question on death. Why do people die? What is the difference between sleep and death? How can someone be and then not be? Will you ever be righteous enough to go to heaven when you die? So actually, these are some of the aspects that I found so interesting in this book. And the book, The Radio and Other Stories, is a Bildungsroman that navigates the reader to the genealogical developments of the narrator G, from childhood to adulthood, from ignorance to self-realization, from royal to urban spaces, and from home to the diaspora. Born in the 80s in a hostile socio-economic and political landscape like that in Cameroon, this Bildungsroman technique navigates the reader to the self-consciousness and self-realization of G, the narrator. The second very important aspect is that of appropriation. The stories in this book are not just told from the perspective of the narrator, but he gives voice to the reader to also engage in some of the situations that are told in the story. So the use of the second person singular, you, in this book speaks to the notion of appropriation, which gives room for the reader to share in some of the experiences that the narrator went through. So I would say in conclusion, 5 minutes is really not enough time to do justice to a rich and well-loaded book like The Radio and Other Stories. I must say, Dr. Gil Dishang, this is a great contribution to the Cameroonian literary landscape. Its interdisciplinary nature exposes it to students of other disciplines like cultural studies, history, philosophy, religion, and gender studies, just to name a few. So I would say to sink deep into this book and get a better understanding of the book from different perspectives, you just need to get your copy right away. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joyce. Proudly represented us. I see your outfit. It matches with our line. proudly this outfit. And I must say, you've depicted another aspect of the book. We have to do with the educational system. You know, you also talked about the radio still in the village setting. Who remembers when Nyako would come back from town or from Douala with his radio set, and when he's passing by, he's the source of attraction, girls are falling on him. And he would be singing to, and he'll be listening to Dede Yango, you know, all these musicians, Manu Dibango, and, you know, people look at him like, wow. So this radio has really helped to shape the lives of many people. And the radio has helped us to connect. I see people connecting from north, south, east, west. I see people, you know, welcome everybody. If you're joining us now, I see Emmanuel Akanwa. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll certainly have a very good time. Let me just read something. You can't go through this book without wanting to share. Talking about the educational system. This is a setting. It's in Waikele. It's in French. Listen to what students would say vis-a-vis food being eaten by lecturers, and they are standing outside. They would say, mais on veut seulement manger. Ces mêmes gens qui ont fréquenté à l'époque où le gouvernement leur donnait l'argent en genre, ils ne payent même pas la pension. Et de surcroît, on leur donnait même un salaire. Ouais, les gars, même les profs mangent comme ça, que nous, les étudiants pauvres, très affamés, on va faire comment? Thank you so much, Gilbert. This is page, I think it's page 25. Just the book a whole. It's a whole. It's a basin of everything. So thank you so much, Joyce. I was just tapping from what she said to throw more light to that section. So we're going to move forward. This time around, we'll be having a review time by Spears Media. Is Jude? Jude, I give the floor to you.
Thank you, Mercy. Okay, just 1 second, please.
Take your time.
All right, so thank you so much. I hope people are enjoying themselves, having a good time. This has been really enriching, listening to all those analyses, the anecdotes, and seeing Gilbert enjoy himself. It's a tremendous pleasure for me. That's wonderful. So if you look at the chat, you would see we have there a coupon, a 25% discount for purchases on the Spears website. So you can purchase any book with a 25% discount for the next 24 hours using the coupon, the radio 2021. And there is a direct link on the chat, so please make use of that. The second thing is we will do something innovative. We haven't done this before. So if you look at the chat as well, you would see links to all the different Amazons where you can actually rate the book. So you have Amazon Germany, Canada, UK, US. Click on that link and rate the book. Hopefully this book deserves 5 stars, or the highest rating you can afford to give. On the Spears website as well, you can go there. The very first link is on the Spears website. Click there and go to the bottom of the screen. You'll be able to see where you can review and rate the book. Also on Goodreads, there is a link there. Click on that link and try to rate the book. If you can say something, if you want to comment on, why people should read this book, buy it, by all means do so. So we're going to give about 5 minutes for that. In the meantime, we will play some music, and please do us a favor and rate the book using those links. Thank you.
Thank you. Music. Feel free to dance. Feel free to celebrate. As I said, it's a jamboree. It's a celebration of the history of our time. The generation of people who've gone through experiences that, are very touching, and it's been related in a book, the radio and other stories. Waiting for the music.
We proud of who we are. We proud of who we are. Me and one dang bagalmo, and I one dang jang man jongo, my brother. Proud of who we are. I buy numbers, pull up jabang, we go still chop out my sister.
When they see me coming, I walk on the boys. Money for me, follow me. Turula, musica, kilo, we kiss her. There's the one side, can you hear the difference?
Man for me, I will lay one. There's one goes away. We proud of who we are. There's it tonight. There's it tonight. There's one goes away. We proud of who we are. Man for me, I will lay one. There's one goes away. We proud of who we are. There's it tonight. There's it tonight. There's one goes away. We proud of who we are. Let's see, for Vine Consansi. When we are watching go. For Vine Consansi. When Siganse Chengleno. For Vine Consansi. When we are watching go. For Vine Consansi.
Yeah, I'll sing some. If you know say you be proud of your beginning, make it the shine your light. Just follow me, follow me, shine your light. Le bangbo le wa, bibi nyok tenya dentitya, bibi nyok tenya dentitya.
Come in upon this one again. I be proud, but me licky girl, yeah. I'm proud of who I am, yeah. C'est pas point tout, yeah. Pas fou samo, yeah. Bangante, bangjung, yeah. Genta asindo,
yeah. Can't man for me, I will lay one. There's one goes away. We proud of who we are. There's it tonight. There's it tonight. There's one goes away. We proud of who we are. Let's see, Jengleno, for Vine Consansi. When we are watching go. For Vine Consansi. When Siganse Jengleno, for Vine Consansi. When we are watching go.
Come see the special place where I come from. The moon is bright, we telling stories round the bonfire. We get the firewood and we get the power. We get the sauce, yes, we are proud of who we are. Now not to sell all man, not
Yeah, boy, I conga to ma. One so yo alaya kisanga. Ile. Vusena do afobia. They are a daddy. Ayo a daddy.
Jere kantindin man famila we lay one. Veto one goes away. We proud of who we are. Versi tuti nay. Versi tapsin nay. Veto one goes away. We proud of who we are.
Jere kantindin man famila we lay one. Veto one goes away. We proud of who we are. Versi tuti nay. Versi tapsin nay. Veto one goes away. We proud of who we are.
Lensi ganse tenglendo. We proud of who we are. Ven wang we are watching go. We proud of who we are. Vensi ganse tenglendo. We proud of who we are. Ven wang we are watching go. We proud of who we are. 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 We proud of.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that beautiful piece. Beautiful one. And we're truly proud of who we are. We're going to move forward. Before I continue, I see our own Joyce Ashun Tang is here. I see Julius connecting from Jab Village in Donga Division. I see Victor Goma from Delaware, Martin Jumbam. I see Ngong Joseph all the way from Marwa. You are all welcome. Feel free, you are at home, and we continue with the program. And this time around, we're going to have, where did I keep a copy of my program? I think it's a poetry, a drama performance, and it's going to be a video.
Yes.
Maybe while the video comes up, I'm going to present quickly the guy behind the comedy. He is Ater, the country comedian, as he calls himself, and he's a Cameroonian and Wimbo comedian. He makes comics jokes so that we can, take our memories back home. His performance teach young people the things that they didn't live in the past, so that they'll be able to experience them even as they grow up, the young generation. And the poetry also relaxes. The way he speaks, the way he talks, it's a source of relaxation. So just stay tuned as we listen or we watch this poetry performance and feel good. It's in Limbo. Those who don't know Limbo, you may have to look what they are saying, what they're talking about in that poetry. Is it audio or?
Can you watch it?
Yes, we're watching it.
Fine.
Can you start from the beginning again?
Bom, ikola panembe. Jayu bangwa che muyisi asange. Wacha iba anye disibu. Yarine bo visi chine aje ko senena. Oje oyaring amum chanen kurga. Aring ya laga. Mo abaje am ko bambe. Mo tigilana ko meyana. Abane muyisi asangwa chigade ejasi. This is bit ringbushim chanen ko. Ringa muyisi Ndi ba. Aba iba mengwana. Lo menjimo Mercy tang kushi sine ngwa abe fu anta. Menontu njoba amba mengwen su kwana machilana si temenji muisi tomiye yunga ebe jawe jamu jamfurmo fon very desi bodu kontombi mega alawa amfara mana she nesin China ikusin ninge China ke wa turi mu an la lokumin wa simple so a chose na ga very ayu yeni warin buyu gochi soringi chibi manji soberinga boba gochi soibli biringi soringa wa ngonka ki bingir sute do baji mwebi ki dogola gana bane angini bo chi soturi ringu yeni bane bongne mutunje ngwambocha ambo wa very so yongchi buri sori kopchi ngwa bane ba Alane you muji si turmengo bum shibi nasi ni si dogun tombi oh ndi sange aye oh ndi sange wala weti atemin du bibi teni mbiri jibi jibang jikwe yu bang fata mika ay mekwe oh Yun laje mem la me welem kune mumdip. Welem kune mumdip wo yeshi komendum dip. Atona yum kumbimbe wello do mamangong. Tukira yang za yembo mkunge fumangong wa mkumbimbe mgifule. Allora yi eve me kwe. Malo. Yeah. Ventara yizinkulo jingon shike pose. She wan lingong wa tim wari shishonga bata werwan. Murin to kijum. Oh. Yumba punengong. Mpu yumba punengong. Ntombi yumba punengong. Babango jaki minju more. Ola o. Ewe mbigi kuyanga. No. Yimba banju memtumba kutimbo. Ola o. Oh. Ongwayo. Yimba banju nkwingi o. Ngongamba nongambo. Timfi buje du tami oh. Tamfon kwingi oh mbuma bawe mindukele. Tamfon kwingi oh mbuma bawe mindukele. Mbuma lana weganje mebimna weganje je weko winto anunguke wekonya chumbwa tomo mzile. Nomfe. Ebe mbigi kuyanga. Umbaji yume bunima ngamba wiwi umba yume budu mebu umbaji dume bupti andu nanjumba ngwinga pubura banung fele fe ngam gingo ngarimbu ambo ngam gingo ngarimbu ngongwiwi ala ne kamwe pumwe wiwi unchanji majiru mala Mbawi kuboba cheji zoning za nyor mingongo. Mem kongasa njudi kele. Gasa oki tungwela na wembuni chega. Fieni barwala na vipkuya duyo. Andi toma. Bara. Wanyma nyumebu. Andi toma. amba me nong tuji ngwa gwam tening kwa bu mwe kusi muni ye Allah ne me te am kuntini am nong tar me fayuga mwa war gor mwe shibi gashi mum ka fansu yundale yo ngwa gwam bana bang mwe mini tata mun matuzi fifia ba nong ne mborbwe ngwa gwa gazi fur sing bulane bikeme kem ga fansule allo chara se mendurbu kale mu mendurbu fiam yongzene morbu alesi mu me goro ngwa gwa fansu karuti mambera kelane si momu wa do jerme diga ochu namji fansule ka fungo yene mu jibomi ne fongwe yento ye turbi meni mame o Bimini mame o Bimi nong nindio Bimi nong nindio Vieje bon ne mun la kwega Jeba bon ne mun jemba bon ne mun la kwe memba lor ban la kwe de jermi ki je fa bamba Oh me Oh me me yo magor me lo yo be jobe idu jowe baba me doke mana wa memba tutu jimbong bong memba lor bamba so bo yege memba chwalo yo be me kwe au mana kwe yo As what boom boom tani nyunem gon kwachi wa fun yene bi ba me non tu wa ya mi aba mi bo bi boom se ni nywe
Oh my goodness. Okay. Thank you so much. After the comedian, and I think he's featured there with Tashe and Nelson China. Thank you so much. I mean, for those of you who don't understand the Wimbom language, that's Limbom. Please just grab a copy of the book. There is much more inside. I cannot begin to explain, but one thing I noted is that when somebody speaks like this, you know, there's an important event happening in the Wimbom. And when you hear them speaking in tongues, meaning that there is something that is epic that is happening. So really, we want to say, when they everybody, it means that something great has happened. So please grab a copy of the book. Thank you so much, Nelson, for that. I mean, I don't know how to qualify that. It's just a wonderful piece. We're going to, Mr. Does anybody have anything to say? I always want to call him Mr. Dr. Gilbert Shang. Do you have anything to say about this particular comment?
Thank you very much, Mercy. I think this an aspect of our culture that requires profound literary analysis. Not much work has been done on that, but that's a literary form that we need to engage with. I think literary scholars as well as linguists and even anthropologists have to engage with this form. It's something that is very, very important for a Wimbom person. And I think neighboring cultures too, if you want to go in detail. I mean, at least for the Nsah, yes, which is our neighboring ethnic group.
All right, thank you so much. I see Jill Bongisi is around. I see Martin Jumbam, Linda Shang. All of you are welcome. We're going to go to another phase of the program, which is going to be the second short reading by the author of The Radio and Other Stories. Over to you, sir.
Okay, Mercy, thanks. Before I read, I want to also acknowledge the presence here of some very remarkable persons in my life. You have Professor CJ, Professor Odhiambo from Moi University, Kenya. He is my mentor, but also my friend. And many people think that I'm from Kenya. I mean, a lot of people have introduced me in spaces as Kenyan, and I claim it actually because of my familiarity. I mean, of my closeness to Kenyans. So And also, this is like magic for me that my own secondary school literature teacher is here with us. I mean, I can't. I mean, this is something I'm unable to even digest. Mr. Jato Sami Kwawe. This name rings. I mean, bells in our ears, and I hope we are going to give him a chance to say something. It's just incredible. Thanks, Prof. My two profs for being here for me. I've of course acknowledged Professor Atechi, my university lecturer, and my friend who is also here tuning in from Nigeria. And again, literature connects people, and when I talk with Nigerians, I'm very much at home, and vice versa. So here we have Reverend Dr. Bernard Oniwe from the US, and also Reverend Dr. Not Reverend Dr. Emmanuel, you are not a Reverend yet, but you are Dr. Dr. Emmanuel Akangwa from tuning in from Maryland. So these are my Igbo friends, and I thought I should read some few, an excerpt that has to do with the influence of Igbo in my home city. I don't want to say town, home city, which is Ndu. Ndu. So I read. In the 1990s, Ndu, which means life in Igbo, became a flourishing hub of Nigerian popular culture in a way that was not very typical of Nkambe, the divisional headquarters. When someone entered the city, they were greeted with tunes by Nigerian gospel singers, evangelists such as Brothers Lazarus and Emmanuel, with their sound, The Voice of the Cross, Agatha Moses, Rosemary Chukwu, Princess Njideka Ngozi Okeke, and others, vibrating from popular stores and discotheque at the Old Market. These songs were mostly in Igbo English and were usually loaded with salvation testimonies, with a single clip mutating into the next without any clear transitions, like Congolese rumba, notorious for its endless length. The zeal and the conviction in these songs were so enthralling that it is only in hindsight that one took note of the grammatical infelicities in expressions like, "You alone is my helper." My Nigerian friends, I indulge in very self-indulgent sarcasm, so forgive me for that. There were a lot of interesting grammatical infelicities in some of these songs, and we only recognize them in hindsight. One could say that Nigerian gospel sounds were major gateways through which certain contemporary religious idioms and expressions seeped into the evangelical speech patterns in Ndu and beyond. Examples included prayer expressions that nowadays seem so natural. "Lord, remove every embargo on my way. Any weapon fashioned against you shall not prosper. I must possess my possessions. Any arrow of death against you and your family, back to sender in Jesus' name. Any Egyptian Goliath hindering my breakthrough, receive destruction in Jesus' name. Blessings shall be my portion. Jesus became Daddy Jesus and Dr. Jesus. A community that had been used to Hebrew attributes of God such as Jehovah Rama, Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Nisi, Jehovah Rohi, now became used to Igbo attributes such as Jehovah Chineke na Enyenu, Jehovah Ukuchukwu, Jehovah Chukwu Mamia, Jehovah Eze Ebere, Jehovah Nuku Chi, and so on and so forth. Most people, especially kids who grew up in those days, could sing some of the Igbo songs from beginning to finish with a full grasp of its meaning. The choreography, dress code, and dance style featuring in these Nigerian clips had an enormous influence on the habits of Ndu folks. Though most of the singers were of Igbo origin, their choreographies welded into a single clip dress codes from the disparate communities that Lord Frederick Logard and the founding fathers Tafawa Balewa, Obafemi Awolowo, Nnamdi Azikiwe fashioned into a single whole called Nigeria. Let me end there for now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Gil Dishang. I'm laughing because I think these Nigerian gospel songs resonated not only in Du, in Bafut, in Bali, in Mankon, in Biemasi, in Obili. It resonated everywhere in Cameroon. So I'm laughing because I was part of it, and we sang these songs with so much vigor, and we claimed the things that our Nigerians brother claimed in the name of Jesus, just the way you wrote it. Thank you so much, Doc. We're going to move straight away to the next item on our agenda, which is going to be the third book review by, let me see. It's going to be by Dopa Ajayi. Yeah, Ajayi. He is a Nigerian scholar. He's currently a PhD student in literature in African languages, University of Beirut. He holds a master's from the Obafemi Awolowo University and is a master's from the Intellectual Anglophone Study Program, University of Beirut. He is a senior fellow at the African Good Governance Network, a program sponsored by the German Academic Exchange Service, DAD. Over to you, my brother from. Your microphone is muted. We can't hear you. Okay, on mute. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's such a privilege to tune in from Beirut, and I will say via Ibadan, Nigeria. So Beirut doesn't just bring him here, but we've been tuning in all along, all the way from Ibadan. And now we are in Beirut and we're still tuning in. So well done, Gilbert, and thank you, everyone. For me, I think I'm just going to run through about excerpts of chapters that kind of speak to my idea of African existence. I would call Gilbert's work a work that resonates across generations of Africans, especially in particular. Of course, it is a universal work itself. You can relate with it from many perspectives. But when you grow up, and I think myself and Gilbert and maybe some of us grew up in the SAP era, I could tell, I mean, this is structural adjustment era. You know, there are some images I see in this novel that makes me to really remember the SAP era. The image of soya beans cake. These are things our mother had to improvise to sustain protein when it was under military era. And bringing all of these things together and in a very subtle way triggers a bit of memory for me in this regard. Also, when we think of the politics, how politics kind of reverberate across country. You know, in Nigeria, there was a period of military incursion on many levels. And I can imagine looking through the eyes of Gilbert to see Nigeria again playing out through the image of Muritala Mohammed and everything. I'm going to also start with something that it is interesting for me as well, which really makes this whole experience of a generation that is just cross-national and that is maybe even cross-continental on many levels, because if we don't even meet in Africa, even Busadveg becomes the space itself that kind of bring all of us together. And Busadveg is one of the, it's a Studentenwohnheim, it's a student Wohnheim in Germany, in this university that sounds like, let's call it a point of entry for most of African students that needs to really kind of adjust to the Bayreuth life and maybe German life as it were. But I'm going to start with, and I'm trying to really speak also against the backdrop of what other people have said. You know, I really like how Joyce really elaborated and went deep into it. So I'm just going to touch on some other aspects, but I will go to that maybe briefly. Just reading on the part that is called the walls. The portraits represented three key people in your life: your granddad, your grandma, President Paul Biya, added to this was the poster of Samuel Okwaraji. Those portraits and wall posters, combined with specific happenings, created several impressions of your fledgling imagination that only revealed the true nature long afterwards. The first speaker speaks about the work of Gilbert and used the image of radio as life itself. And for me, one of the work that has helped me to really make meaning of life, or maybe not even make meaning of life, is the work of Samuel Beckett. And I love how Gilbert brings many work of literary text in a kind of intertextual way to introduce his thoughts. So I'm going to really bring Samuel Beckett that into Estragon, sitting on a low mound. He's trying to take off his boots. He pulls at it with both hands. Panting, he gives up. Exhausted, rests, tries again. Anybody that is familiar with this work of Waiting for Godot would know that it really triggers the thought of life itself. It's a book that is about life, and it's also about nothing. It's always about just going around, not doing anything. What should I do? Hesitation and all of this. And so this stylistic mode of narrative and bringing all these aspects really interests me a lot. If I do not touch on the part which I think also resonates for every enfant terrible in our generation, growing up in our mother's kitchen, it's always I would not forgive myself. So I'm going to run through that, because for me as a Nigerian and thinking of how Gilbert narrated this, I was just like, why are our mothers just the same? All of our mothers are just the same, and why is it that we are just all the same in this whole experience of the kitchen, especially those of us that knows how to sniff around the kitchen and open the pot, tiptoe, and and whereas we grew up during the SAP era, so some things are a bit of luxury for many of us. You found the Muritala basin. The Muritala, it varied in shapes and sizes, an indispensable feature in the parlor cupboard of almost every family in your area. It bore the bust effigy of a handsome and a plump man in green and profusely decorated military uniform. It was a romantic image of a military leader, a one-time Nigerian president. Your family's was a medium-sized basin. In your household was your mother's use the Muritala as an efficient disciplinary measure. All the niceties from the Undu markets in form of chin-chin, puff-puff, soya stick were kept in the Muritala. When your mom fried puff-puff, the leftover were usually preserved in the Muritala, and leftover was usually more tasteful than when it was still hot or warm. Not forgetting the take-home pieces of meat from the monthly meeting of the Teachers' Wives Union, to which she belonged. Anyone who desisted from the course would not taste of the Muritala. I think for me, this also, in a way, it is a celebration of motherhood, of the disciplinary measure of our mothers, of their foresight, of the kind of circumstance they have to really deal with, coping and rationing portions of food during the SAP period for me. So it triggers a lot of economic experience. It triggers a lot of struggles of our stories, of a collective one across generation, across boundary. And thank you, Gilbert, for doing this great job. Your ink will not run dry, and we look forward to seeing other things. I know that you're likely to write someday about Facebook as well, because I know you're so fascinated with idea of social media too. So courage.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on the program.
I see your microphone is muted. Mercy, your microphone is muted. Mercy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I was saying that, did you hear how our brother Ajayi finished his presentation? Your ink shall not run dry. That's typical of what our brother wrote in the book. You know, you guys are fond of these expressions that give courage, that gives hope, that gives a desire to keep on going. So thank you so much. The kitchen experience in our villages is the same. North Africa, South Africa, East, West, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, same experience, which has just been written down in a very lovely way for everybody. Whoever you can read this book. So grab it and get that wonderful experience of the kitchen scenario. We're going to move straight away to another phase of our program, which is Know the Author game. It's going to be done by Lillian Spear. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome, and Edwin, just joining. Thank you for coming from Lo. Do some.
Thank you. Thank you. So everybody who's here, you have a chance, an opportunity to win a free book from Spears Media. And but to win that, you have to participate in a fun quiz about the author of the book. So I've put a link on the chat. It's menti.com, www.menti.com. And there's a code there. When you go to that website, it's going to ask you for a code. Enter the code, and then we're going to have a quiz, a fun quiz. And the top 3 winners get a free book from us. So I'm waiting for all those participating in the quiz. I see 5 people there already. Yeah, I'll share my screen, but I'm waiting for more people to join in. So go to www.menti.com and use the code 23218295.
Can the link be okay? I've just seen it.
The link is in the chat. I'm going to paste it again. Okay, I see 8 people. Nine. So when we have 10, we're going to proceed. One more
person. Mm-hmm. Okay.
If you can see my screen, you see all the information about joining. So www.menti.com, and the code is 23218295. So a few seconds and then we'll start. There's nobody. Okay, one more person joined. So we're going to start. More people joining in. Okay. So the first question. So answer first to get more points. That's the first question on there. Time's up. So 5 people had that question right. What year did the Ndu massacre take? Ndu. Again? I'm trying to get the pronunciation right. What year did they do? Is that it?
Ndu.
No. Yeah. Ndu. The author calls it a different way.
Ndu.
Ndu massacre take place. It was 1992. Let's see who got that first or fast enough. Bernard. Awesome. So you have more chances with the other questions. So the current leader is Bernard.
Wow.
In what town did the main character in the radio attend secondary school? There are 4 choices. You gotta be fast. 10 people got that right. Yes, in Cambridge. That's good. Should you read the book? Let's see whether the scoreboard changes after this. Ooh. Oh, Bernard has been deposed. So Ernie is in the lead now. Okay. Let's try one more. Question 3. So you have to answer fast to get more points. Which of these was a common name for dogs in the main character's home village? The correct answer is go on. 6 people got that right. Let's see how that changes the scoreboard, if at all it does. Bernard is back at the top.
Wow. Reverend Dr. Bernard, you are a wizard. Wow.
Is that true or false? That was true. His book, Letter from America, also published by Spears, was published in 2019. And 9 people got that right. I see Eugene is trying to give Bernard a run for his money. And Ernie is very fast. Okay, last one. You better try and catch Bernard. You've been paying attention. What brand was the radio in the radio? Oh, wow. Everybody got that right. Wonderful. Congratulations. Now, how fast did you get the answer?
Wow.
Oh, Bernard
is
the winner with 4,594 points. Ooh.
Wow.
So, congratulations. Well done to Bernard. And second place is Eugene Youngsti, and third is Ernie Mimba. Thank you all. Thank you for participating. We have 3 books for our winners, but you have to wait till after the Q&A to get your books.
Wow.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you, Lillian. Thank you so much for that wonderful exercise. Dr. Reverend Bernard. All right. And we're going to move into a very exciting one, which is going to be the question and answer session. Please want your questions to be brief, straight to the point, so that we can catch up with time. So the floor is open. And please, before you ask your question, let us know where you're tuning in from. I am tuning in from Binka.
Okay, I'll go ahead.
The floor is open.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make mine very brief. Congratulations again, dear brother and friend, Dr. Gilbert. I just tuned in, okay, so mine just arrived in the mail. So I'm gonna do one review of it. But my question for you, sir, is this. I've known you since 2011, so that's like almost 10 years of intense friendship and conference and everything. But have you lived in Nigeria, sir? Make it simple. Have you really resided in Nigeria for like? I've gone through the first 4 chapters of this book, and I saw myself in all the pages of the text. My experiences. The only difference being that your dad was really educated, I think a school principal. Mine wasn't, but we are all connected in all the areas. So I saw that I call you my Nigerian brother, but that really came to the fore in this text. Have you really lived in Nigeria extensively? I'll make it simple.
Well, yes, is the response. Yes, why? Because Chinua Achebe, yes, made me live in Nigeria. As you must have noticed, Things Fall Apart was the ever first text that I read from cover to cover. And that book really reminded me of the congeniality of our different countries. So I really identified with the book. And it still remains my bedside book up to today. Many of my friends know that I post on Things Fall Apart almost every single day on WhatsApp, Facebook. So I experienced Nigeria through Chinua Achebe, through the radio. Of course, that to me was even more tactile than living there physically. BBC Hausa service was there with me every day, and so again, later on, I experienced Shoyinka and other writers. So Nigeria for me came to be quite real through literary works. Same for Kenya, which many know is my second home. Unmistakably. So that's my response to your question.
Thank you. Next question. Anybody, you can participate. Or a comment if you have. I don't know how we'll be able to get those who are watching us on YouTube, their questions, and on Facebook. They're probably writing. I don't know how.
Mercy, I have a question.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you so much for giving me that chance. Thank you, Gilbert. When I saw this book, when Gilbert told me about this book, I was so excited and I was waiting for the day I will get the book. When the book was out, I saw videos on Facebook. I was so enthusiastic. I had ordered for this book. It took longer than expected. For some reasons, I don't know why this was so long. So I kept getting extracts and abstracts from people. And when the book arrived, I was waiting for that moment to receive my book so that I could also make a video and said, my copy is here. But when that book came, I took the prologue and I started reading. The first sentence read, as a child, you confronted a world full of puerile presumptions. I did not leave my seat. I realized I have forgotten everything I was doing. The point of view, you, glued me to my seat. I found myself in that book from that moment I read you. So, because of that point of view, I realized I had forgotten to make a video that, oh, my book has arrived. I just found myself after I have finished reading the radio, I have read the shoe, I was on the doctor, and at some point my husband almost said, hey, what is wrong? Are you married to this book now or what? I said, I'm not married to this book. This is the radio. I don't tune into the radio. This is a live radio. I am leaving the radio. I did not read that book from here. I read that book from Binka, from Kambe, from Ndu, from Lo. I was moving around the areas, all where I have grown up, and I was reading that book. And that, what actually pushed me to sit down without turning away from that book was the point of view you. So I want to ask the doctor, let me manage to call you today doctor, the author, what inspired you to choose the point of view you? Because that actually caught my attention and made me not to leave. I found myself in that book throughout, from the first page to the last page.
Thank you very much, Jill, and I must commend you for one of those who have really been with me during my low moments and my most triumphant moments. So with Mercy and others with whom we have a long history, of students' lives and all that. So I really am touched by what you are saying, and also the fact that you have been my main anchor, so the Saudi kingdom has been very much represented as far as my books are concerned. You really put up a strong team when I published Letter from America, and you've done same for the radio and other stories. So thanks a lot for that constant support. Now to your question, yes, I had to take a very conscious and conscientious decision to adopt that point of view. I want to think that I'm not a very solipsistic person. I mean, but I'm not somebody who is really centered on himself. I mean, I always want to think about others. I always want to write about others, to praise others. I mean, on my Facebook, I pay tribute to almost everyone, but I hardly want to focus on myself in my life. So I thought that I needed to write a story that was relatable. Now, the background to this book is that I had wanted to write it from a very intellectual perspective. I'm a literary scholar, and I do a lot of popular cultural analysis. Dapo gestured towards my Facebook addictions. There are addictions that I've actually claimed in my life, and I've made the best of those addictions. The radio is one of them, and that's why we have this book today. And then in this case, I have to to ask for forgiveness for Elvis, my roommate from the university days, who had to endure all the BBC Focus on Africa all through the night, and my neighbors complaining. Sorry for that. It's my addiction, same as Facebook is my addiction.
Never mind.
Yes, Elvis, you were very understanding, really. Thanks so much for that. So I wanted to use a point of view in which, the reader would really be thrust into the text, and so the you for me was to engage the reader and to say, this is not my story. This is a human story. It's not only about a boy in law. I've had the privilege of talking to people across the globe. From every part of the world, and I discovered there's something unique about humanity. We are all the same. Despite all these cleavages of race and so I was looking for that human touch. And I wanted to use a point of view that would connect, across race, across sex, across gender, across cultures. So the you for me was the most appropriate point of view in that sense. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gilbert. I am so satisfied because you have answered that question appropriately. That is what I had in mind when I was reading. This is Jill tuning from Binka, although from the Holy Land, Mecca, Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jill.
Mercy, I would like to follow up on that.
Okay.
This is Professor Joyce Tantang, University of Hartford, and I'm tuning in from Connecticut via my village in Ashum in Manu Division. And I'm very excited to hear somebody say that they were sold on that book because of the point of view. I was upset with that point of view. It was because I have been following the excerpts on Facebook. I knew it was your story. And when the book came out, I was waiting to delve in. And so it threw me off. because it's like I'm coming there to read your story, but the first person is an objective point of view, but it's also very good when you are narrating personal experiences and you're getting to personal spaces. There's a certain truthfulness, honesty. So when you start talking you, I was doubting the honesty because you don't know you. So when you say you, I didn't feel the truthfulness. So I wasn't anchored on the you because it's not me. I wanted to read Gilbert and be connected to Gilbert as a human being. Although he's writing about Gilbert, I'll be connecting. So that threw me off. And I think when I wrote my blurb, I told you that, why did you do that? And so I'm just glad. I'm glad that my pain was somebody's joy.
Yes.
And that's a wonderful thing about writing. So that's my comment on that.
Yes.
The other question that I have for you is that you're sold on pop culture, and I also am into pop culture. What made you think that you could intellectualize it? Because in our community, it is not validated. It's not something that is that we write about. Again, maybe that's another reason why the point of view threw me off, because we don't have enough biographies. We don't have enough personal stuff, and so what made you delve into this? And
yes, Joyce, I thought I was writing about myself from the beginning, actually. From the very beginning, I thought I was writing about Gilbert, but I discovered that G was not Gilbert, actually. It was someone else. Simply because memory is reconstruction, which means my main aim was to make it verosimil, to make it apparent. So which means I anchored myself on key events, key happenings, but what I did was to make recourse to my imagination. And I discovered that, one key thing, exactly as you said, you were reading me on Facebook. The Facebook is not me, actually. It's a persona. It's not a Gilbert talking to you now.
Don't play magic with me now.
Everyone who knows me, and again, I think that the narrator in the radio is less radical than many of you know. I'm more radical, actually. So if it were me writing, you would have seen expressions like Bianistan, president, all these radical neologisms that I use, and I would have been the Gilbert that you were waiting to read is more Shoyinka and Ngugi than I wanted to be a bit Achebian in my way of writing, so I wanted to be less radical and more subtle, and to bite and blow at the same time. So you should
not have used G for Gilbert. When you did G, I saw Gilbert. You should have just done some N.
No, G is someone else. It's not the Gilbert talking to you now. Okay, yeah. So I don't want to go and say this was Gilbert's book. No, this the person talking is you, and that is G. Okay. Joyce, about popular culture. Yeah, good question. Actually, popular culture is one of the things I'm very much immersed in. And that's, when you look at the text, you discover that, I grew up in a store, in a shop, a family shop, provision store. So I was thrust into the public space, at a very young age, seeing how, people narrated stories, about my village. And there was always a very creative way of rendering these stories. And so I grew up in this public realm. And for me, I wanted to, I've written things about Facebook. From a very intellectual level. I'm a Facebooker, as many of you know, but I also write articles, intellectual articles about Facebook. I analyze Facebook, so it's my addiction. I make the best out of it. So I wanted to, and I've written an article about Facebook and its antecedents. You know how, from the Greek agora, from the Roman forum. I mean how it developed gradually to an electronic, a cyber social space. And I was wondering that this is a very Western and Eurocentric genealogy. And I was like, okay, how does one from my own background relate with the genealogy of this social media? And I had to go through those junctions, to those three corners Ntunzi, three corners Kakar, all those spaces where the personal and the public intersect and relate, So, and those shops, those bars, where people sit together and tell stories, comment about football, argue about international news. So I've grown up really in those spaces. I mean, from my childhood, from Yaoundé, I mean, I was always amongst those who would sit in bars and argue about sports. So that's why you see the book is very versatile in terms of thematic. You have football, you have music, you have. So I wanted to write a book that you would read with your dancing shoes on. And dancing not only to the very romantic music, but also to dancing for me is a very complex, or music for me is a very complex,
I know that. I've seen you dance.
It's good I have that testimony because my wife and many people who knew me in Cameroon think I don't dance very well. So it's good you know me more.
Well, I didn't know you could dance. I didn't even know you could.
Exactly.
He dances at a conference, and maybe at that time he's intellectualizing the dance because it takes the whole floor.
This guy. Can't believe.
Mercy, I have a preoccupation, please.
Thank you so much.
If I can just ask one follow-up question to that. When we talk about writing, especially spaces that have to do with the masses, one of the questions that I don't have an answer for is that when we write about them, we seem to then take their stories to spaces that they cannot participate. How do we bring their stories back to them? Or are we just, in a way, have to be content that we are saving their voices so they don't disappear? Is that all we get? Or can we find a way where these people get to know that their stories are so important that you have remembered them and you've put them together in a book? How do we deal with that?
Good follow-up question. Joyce, as I said, I had wanted to write this as an intellectual book. I put together all the theories. I contacted my friend Solomon Waliaula, who is a specialist in that. He was at Oxford at the time, and we were I was already putting together a plan, but I discovered that I wanted to write a book that can be read at the very basic level. Now,
and it did work. It did work.
Exactly.
If and two of them, it's going to last forever.
and somebody exactly.
Yes. So can you just make it brief? Other people
yes.
For questions.
Yes. Oh, there are several hands up. Yes. So I wanted to make it accessible. That's why this book is. Although at some point you would find, as Joyce, you made a comment in your review that there's also the scholar, but I try to make it in a way that someone who maybe is not in the literary domain can also still access it. And somebody once told me that because most of the stories, especially from the last chapter, Nanga Hills, have flown on my Facebook page, and when I see the way people read and make meanings, I mean people that are not even in the in the domain of literary studies, I feel very happy. Okay. One guy told me that my Facebook is a junction on Saturdays because I make sure I publish on Saturdays where people are mornings where people are just waking up and then they read. So it means that there's a degree of accessibility. And of course, the Facebook versions are different from what I really put in the book, but at least the stories are more or less accessible.
Well, thank you so much, Joyce. Thank you. I'm sure through Joyce, most questions have been answered. So please keep your questions brief. Bernard, Oningwe, you have the floor. Brief answers, please. Many people want to talk.
All right, thank you so much. Congratulations, my dear friend, Gail. It's so great to see you. I just want to say this. I just read this part about Sam Okwaraji. Can you see me? Okay.
Yes, I'm saying.
Yeah, I just read that part about Sam Okwaraji. I just want to talk about connections. The first review I talk about connections. So I see the connection with Nigeria, of course. I see the connection from the posters on the wall. I see those posters on the wall in my own house right now. But one connection I want to talk about is Okwaraji's death was just 22nd anniversary 2 days ago, interestingly. And I can recall the day he died. It was my birthday, August 12th. I was in college then, Nife, and it just this connection right now, reading this short story and talking about it. Last thing, somebody talk about you referencing death a lot. And that story, Okwaraji died here in this story, collapsed and died on the football pitch. So question about that is this. Were you influenced in a lot by your great mentor, literary mentor, Achille Mbembe, in talking about death in your stories?
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, people keep linking me to this guy, Achille Mbembe.
You can't escape him.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I mean, like, one thing that I find really wonderful in Achille Mbembe's work is, I think at the base, he is a literary writer more than even an intellectual. I mean, from the way I relate with his works. And Achille Mbembe and I have one intersection. And you can see this in his book, De la Postcolonie, which is, it's an analysis of literature, which means he also borrows so much from literary text. And the author that Achille Mbembe happens to reference the most is Sonila Butangsi. And anybody who knows me knows that I have dedicated, I've written a book on Sonila Butangsi, and I'm writing another one that's going to be published maybe next year, an intellectual book for that matter. So death and life are two sides of the same coin. I mean, it's not only in literature, but it's a good example. I mean, of course, I dedicate the book to life and, of course, death. It was intentional. It was for us. We have to be conscious that our lives are ambivalent. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so and if you live, you must die. So.
You must die. And as a good example, when I began writing that book, I began it in 2015. And it's been published in 2021 now. So there are characters that I reference to, to whom I reference and who were alive when I was writing, although what I did was a literary rendition of those live characters. But I thought that this book that they could get this book and read about what I've written about supposedly them. Before I realized, Pange died. Pange, the woman history teacher who was like, I mean, anybody who was schooled in my alma mater knows Pange. He died, and I thought that I would get a copy of this book to him for him to read. He died. The one whom I talk very much about in the church, Nyamifo, the guy who was an all round the funeral conductor, he died just how many days, how many weeks ago. So this is the reality of life. There's life, there's death, and it's not like one comes after the other, but there's a kind of, both are interwoven in several ways. Yeah.
Okay, next person, Victor.
Thank you.
Yeah. You can ask your question, you can react.
Okay, thank you, Madam Moderator. I mean, I've been here from the very beginning, following this with so much excitement and satisfaction. More so because I followed the conception of this book we're celebrating today at various stages, and I'm very happy that we are where we are, and I'm also happy with the way that this has gone through. One thing I wanted to say, not really a question yet, is that this is going to be one of the very big phases of the evolution of Cameroon Anglophone literature, because of its all-embracing themes that we have in the text, and the manner in which the author, along with the publisher, make this text come across internationally is just phenomenal. And I want to applaud Spears Media. I want to applaud the author Gil Ndi and say it's wonderful to be here. I will ask a question, but I'm asking that question reluctantly because I'm one of those who agree with Roland Barthes, the literary theorist, who states very unequivocally that, and I quote, "The writer has died. Long live the critic," end of quote. When the writer writes and publishes the text out there, his job is done, basically. We are the ones to crack our head left and right to try to find out what exactly he meant by what he said in what page, in what chapter, and so on and so forth. So the question I'm asking reluctantly to the author goes as follows. A writer doesn't write in a vacuum. A writer writes within a context. And this text comes in a very timely period in history. I wanted to find out how does this text address the common concerns of its origin the way it is? Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Victor.
Short.
Do you get me?
Answers short. Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much, Victor, and thank you too for, being my my mentor and my fellow sojourner at the same time. Yes, you and Nsah Mala have been there with me physically when I was writing, and we exchanged ideas, and highly acknowledged, my brother. Yes, the writer doesn't. The author is long dead. And this is what I think comes across in the issue of the point of view of the you and the I. Exactly, the writer is dead. Memory is reconstruction. And even if I were to use the I, it won't be the I talking to you now. And this book has passed through phases of different titles. At first, I wanted to say the archaeology of the self. But then it was a self writing from a position and looking back. And looking back, it's imaginary, it's imagination, And then when you talk about the writer doesn't write in a vacuum, yes, there are historical circumstances that triggered this book. And this book narrows down on some of those historical moments. It is anchored on the life trajectory of people, of a generation of youth who were born in the 80s, and who are biased children. This is how I framed the book. These are biased. So all the political happenings under this current regime, for a generation that has known only one head of state, they will identify themselves with almost all the happenings, in this story. So that is the context. Now, let me be direct. This text is published in 2022, but it was, I wrote the majority of it. The manuscript was ready in 2016. Before the current Anglophone crisis actually, the violent phase of it began. But I didn't want to adapt the text, to suit the circumstances. This was a text that was written. I didn't want to tamper the text. So that's why maybe the kind of subtleness. I write with a lot of subtleness. I don't engage in a lot of diatribes, I just wanted to paint a situation. Of course, the background element can really enlighten the current crisis. Mercy made reference to the issue of what retirement, what retirement means, to a number of people, especially those who come from a particular region and who have to travel all along to Yaoundé for all this. So these are elements that can throw light on the current crisis, Yeah. But I did that naturally. I wasn't forced by the radical moment to change the tone of the text. I was very much conscious of that.
Okay, thank you. Let's give the floor to Kemonet. I don't see his name. Is it Elvis?
Yes, Elvis.
Okay, all right. Go ahead. Please make your questions brief, Mr. Otto.
Thanks.
Many people want to talk.
Yeah. Thanks, Mercy. I'm going to be very brief. My preoccupation goes to Gilbert. Gilbert, given that the whole, letter from America. Yeah, sorry. Given that you wrote the letter from America, so I want to put this question this way, because the radio and stories depict your interior life experience. I remember when we couldn't even afford to eat an egg. But I remember when to fry an egg was like luxury. It was luxurious life to fry an egg. Why is it that you wrote radio and other stories after a letter from America?
Wow, wow, what a question coming from my right hand man. You know, yeah. The truth is that Ngugi will tell you that even though you know the river between was published later than Weep Not Child, that was his first written text. You know, in my case, I would say I wrote this text simultaneously. And that's why it would be very enriching reading both texts, like, in conversation. The style is basically the same. I mean, anybody who has read Letter from America would say it's the same intermixing of tragic moments and humor. But the difference is that Letter from America is that of a child grappling with the unknown, grappling with the world that he's trying to understand, and that world is America. America not only as a space, but as a metaphor, as a very tragic metaphor, So that's Letter from America. It's like it's a child trying to understand the world, and America becomes that center, of what it means to be colonial. And I wrote that text as a travelogue from my trips North America, Canada, and South America. So it's really that grappling with America at a historical space, but also as a metaphor of its own self. And Letter from America, the radio is written at the same time. I wrote both of the texts like almost interchangeably. And Nsah Mala would tell you, Victor would tell you, it was the same process. It just happened that I had to publish this Letter from America, before the radio.
Okay, thank you so much. Edwin Tangwa has been raised for a long time. Edwin.
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm sorry, I'm out here. We are doing the 6K walk for water around the world, and that's why I'm out in the cold here. I'm actually tuning in from Tahoe, but I live in California, and yeah, Mr. Gilbert Dishang, we had a brief history together in Waikele and probably beyond. And what caught me in the book, I'll just be brief, is that he successfully takes me back to our bittersweet days in Waikele with all the intrigue in terms of struggling to get what to eat, how to survive each day, and how to get access to what rightfully belongs to you, and you have to struggle to get it. And unlike Professor Joyce Ashuntantang, the point of view also, well, it caught me by unawares. I was surprised. I was expecting to hear Gilbert telling me about his life using the I. I don't remember ever reading a book written in the second person. I don't think I have. If I have, I've forgotten. But this one is unique in its own way. But rather than getting upset, I was actually intrigued. The book feels like someone telling me about my life. And this is because Gilbert successfully has the collective experience of his generation. Our generation, we are of the same generation, and we have basically the same experiences, both in terms of our cultural backgrounds in the villages. He's from Lu, I'm from Saw, and there's virtually the only difference is in the sounds of the words The languages, the culture is basically the same. Sometimes I understand Wimboom, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I understand English, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I understand French, sometimes I don't. So what interests me in the book is
Please
the
ask.
way.
I understand a lot of emotions, but go ahead and ask your questions, sir.
I have no question. I just wanted to make that that comment, and that someone talked about the book. You know, people for whom the book is written, not having access to the book, probably in terms of having the physical copy, but I think in terms of readability, in terms of the simplicity of the book, the language and all of that, is very accessible. And I can only commend Nsah for doing what he knows how to do best and creating a wonderful work. Congratulations, bro. I'm so cool. That's why I'm actually speaking.
Thank you.
That's good. Thanks a lot.
Theodore, you have the floor.
Theodore.
Yes, right there.
Okay.
I don't know if it's connection.
If not, he could just write his comments maybe in the message box and then.
Okay, we're going to take Divine Buto.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I am Divine, tuning in from Bamali, Ngogachinja Division.
Okay.
My question, I'll go straight to the point. My question, Gil, as I've told you before, has to do with violence and your childhood. When I read through your book, The Radio, I have the impression that you have this way of actually avoiding sad moments that happen to you directly. It's like most often you only come back to it. The ones that link to you directly, you are never there. An example is the last paragraph in the first story, The Radio. They laid she that was the age mate of the radio. She was your sister, she was your friend, she was your classmate, she was your adversary, she was your ally. And with the radio, sometimes you quarreled, sometimes you fought, but it was all about out of love. Now, this is where my question comes in. How much of this childhood pain and sadness informs the radio and other stories?
Okay, quite interesting. Yes, I mean, childhood is a very interesting, stage in life. That's a stage where you ask a lot of questions. That's a stage where you develop your dreams. Where you dream a lot, and that is the mainstay of this book. It's anchored on childhood, and if you read the prologue, you understand the tone. The prologue sets the tone of the story. So the issue of violence. I go through violence through memory. Notice that I think in the quiz we had a question about the Mdu massacre, for example. This is a massacre which happened when I was 10 years old, but I didn't have that mind to understand the complexity of politics, in my country. And so I can only reflect back because the way I confronted that reality was not about the violence itself, but the surrounding circumstances. Notice that Ndu for me stood for something else. Ndu stood for, my mom is from Ndu, for example, but she got married to my village. So Ndu for me is modernity. I always tell Jill that Jill grew up in modernity, and for me Ndu was a dream. And to have that dream shattered, by the images of violence, committed by somebody whom I had imagined as the father of, not only the father of the nation, but my father. Paul Biya was for me my second father, as I say in the book. So I tell the story, but I tell it from that childhood perspective, and I think in that way it enhances the ethical interrogations of the work. Actually, I mean, I think those questions asked by the innocent child, I mean, really, it brings out, the degeneration of that system without using a very radical language, but really questioning if truly we use the metaphors about father of the nation, how come the father of the nation, whose handsomeness made me to pray that he should be my second father, would kill his own children in that way. I mean, bottles being inserted into women's. I mean, this is a history that traumatizes anybody from my area and beyond. And for me, when these questions are not answered, then my relationship with the Cameroonian nation is in troubled waters. I mean, up till now. So that text, as my colleague Dr. Sam Dogo said, it's also about the affection and disaffection with the nation itself. And it so happens that we are today on the 22nd of May, 2 days after the National Day. And mind you that the last story in that text is written when I visit my alma mater on the National Day. And these questions start coming up.
Okay, thank you so much. This book is subtle, but it's deep. It is shallow, but it is also very, very insightful. Let's give the floor to Ngenge Shingong. Yeah, he's the WISU. I think he's the president of the Wimbledon.
Yes, he's the WISU president. Yeah.
WISU president. Thank you so much for joining us from Bamenda. And Ngenge, you're welcome. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, actually, we're in total blackout. I don't know whether you're getting me.
We're getting you, but the screen is black. We understand where it's coming from.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I have the opportunity to go through the book, but after listening to the exposés and everything that has been said here, actually, I think the plot of the story is very related to me. You know, I'm in a village setting like Dr. Gilbert over there. So I want to take this opportunity to congratulate him for this great storybook that he has written. Talking about the radio and other stories, I think that's that I really like to go through and see my position in that book. So thank you very much. I will not have much to say. I just want to congratulate him for writing that book. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I think the time is on our neck. We wish we could continue on, but I think we have a few announcements to make. The winners of the book. Lillian, very briefly.
Hi. So
Yes.
congratulations to all those who participated. And the first prize winner was Bernard.
Wow. Bernard.
Congratulations, Bernard.
Reverend Bernard. Reverend Dr. Bernard is.
So you win yourself a copy of Letter from America, also by Gilbert. And if you can put a message, a private message to Jude with your address, we would get that shipped to you.
Super.
Second place was Eugene. Is Eugene still on? So Eugene gets a copy of Beats of Memory by Martin Jumbam, which is being launched next on our series of book launches. So you gotta get a copy. And please put your address in the private chat and we will have your address. And the third person was Ernie Mimba. Ernie wins one of our publications too, A Night in Captivity. And it's by the late great Christian Cardinal Chumi. So you win a copy of that. So congratulations to all of you. If we have your details, we will get your copies to you.
Thank you so much, Lillian. I want to sincerely thank Spears Books for, not just, bringing this book to limelight, but also accompanying the author to have this wonderful platform. That's innovative. Really appreciate you, Spears Media. I didn't know about Spears Media, but now I know about Spears Media, and I know that many other people have learned that there's a media somewhere in Germany that is there for you, that is there to promote you, to promote African writers. So please contact Spears Media. I don't know if Mr. Jude has any closing remark. Where do we get the book? Gilbert, in Cameroon, people want to know how get they can get the book, they can grab a copy. So please, those last closing remarks so that we wrap up. Actually going above time, but we're trying to make it. Yeah. Is Jude there?
Maybe Jude before I.
Yes, Jude should, just give us.
Gilbert, go ahead, please.
Okay, yeah, for me, okay, with regards to the copies of the book in Cameroon, I mean, the availability, we have, shipped the copies already. So hopefully it takes, for Maryland, it takes about 6 weeks. So hopefully by, I don't know, beginning of July or mid-July, we should be having copies. I also adopted a plan B. I sent some copies from Germany. So I think copies will be available en masse in July, so to speak. In case you really want to be on the front list, you should send, your name and number to those who know me on Facebook can do that, or any other social media platform. Or communicate with PS Media. And also, you can also, you have the radio page on Facebook. So you can write and then the admin will take down the number and the name. With this, I just want to thank everyone who made it to this event. I'm really overwhelmed by the show of love. I mean, from all my alma mater, from primary school to especially Nanga Hills, Nanga Hills, my alma mater, my secondary school and high school. Their support has been immense. My own batch, batch 95 to 2002, very supportive, very inspirational batch. Otherwise, I wouldn't have, written so well, because it was an inspirational batch for that matter. And also my friends, from Ngwaikele, from Ecole Normal, who are here with us, my colleagues here in Germany, and of course, my wonderful Nigerian friends, my brothers, in the US. Thanks so much for being here for me. We are together. On est ensemble.
On est ensemble. All right, that's how we would end it for today. Jude said Gilbert go first. Do you have anything to say, Jude?
All right, thank you, Mercy, for doing such a wonderful job. Can we give a hand of applause to Mercy? Thank you so much, Mercy. This has been phenomenal. We are pleased to have everyone join us to celebrate Gilbert's book. Please buy a copy, gift a copy. So don't just buy for yourself. If you know someone who likes good books, buy a copy and give it as a gift. So bless someone with a copy of Gilbert's book. Thank you again for joining us. We have a rendezvous on June 12th. So please join us again. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye. See you June 12th on air.